So we all know that the art world is vast, but today we're narrowing it down to Black-owned galleries that are shaking things up in the biggest way. These aren't just galleries, they're cultural powerhouses. They're reimagining what it means to support artists, to champion Black voices, and to push boundaries in an industry that often sidelines them. Each one is rewriting the rules of the game. And today we're diving into how they're doing that and why you should be paying attention. If you love art, if you care about representation, or if you are an artist yourself, please stay with me because this is a conversation you need to be a part of. What's up, Glorifiers? For those of you who are new, I'm Mariah Elise, an art advisor and a curator dedicated to making the art world accessible to everyone through insights, through conversations, and through discovery. So I want to start from the beginning. Superposition Gallery is the brainchild of Storm Ascher, an artist, a curator, and a visionary who saw a problem in the art world that most galleries refuse to acknowledge: gentrification. Every so often, galleries move into neighborhoods, and what happens next? Rent goes up, local businesses struggle, and the list goes on. The very communities that gave these areas their unique culture start getting pushed out, okay? Art, which should be a force for good, ends up being a tool for displacement. And we haven't seen it once or twice. We see it all the time, even with public art. So she flipped the script. Instead of a traditional brick and mortar gallery, she created a gallery that moves, that adapts to each space without leaving a harmful footprint. Superposition is a nomadic gallery, meaning it doesn't have a permanent location. It borrows space. It appears, it engages, and then it moves on to the next place where it's needed the most. So now you might be thinking, okay, that's cool, whatever, but how does a gallery without a fixed location even work? Well, the beauty of superposition is that it thrives by being everywhere and nowhere at once, right? In 2022 alone, it staged exhibitions in London, Miami, New York, Marrakesh, and Santo Domingo. It pops up in unexpected places, from auction houses to historical Black neighborhoods, creating conversations that might never happen in a static, traditional gallery space. But beyond its mobility, superposition is a powerhouse when it comes to who it uplifts. It has featured some of the biggest names in contemporary Black art, including Derrick Adams, Sanford Biggers, February James, and Renee Cox. And let's talk about impact, because one of its most important exhibitions was Resilience, a 2022 benefit show in Sag Harbor, New York, an area with deep Black history that's been increasingly threatened by cultural erasure. Superposition partnered with Eastville Community Historical Society, a Black and Indigenous museum, to raise funds that help preserve the history of Sag Harbor's Black beachfront enclaves. The gallery wasn't only selling art, it was preserving culture. That's what makes superposition different. It's not about exclusivity at all. It's about access. And that's what we're about on this channel, about making sure that Black and brown artists who have historically been left out of major gallery conversations finally have a space where they're prioritized. And it's working, because major art fairs like Frieze Los Angeles are now featuring superposition, giving these artists an even bigger platform. Now, let's talk about some of the artists that superposition has given a spotlight to, because this roster is crazy. First up, of course, Derrick Adams. You've probably seen his work before. He's bold, he's vibrant, he's mixed media pieces, celebrate Black culture in ways that feel both fresh and timeless. Then we have Sanford Biggers, an interdisciplinary artist whose work spans sculpture, spans quilting, and installations, all deeply, deeply rooted in African American history. And let's not forget about February James. Her haunting ethereal portraits tap into Black historical memory in a way that feels delicate. And of course, Renee Cox, the pioneering Jamaican-American photographer and mixed media artist who challenges representation in the way Black women's bodies are portrayed in art. These artists aren't just names, they're change makers. And superposition is giving them a platform in a way that traditional galleries rarely do. Let's bring it back to the woman behind all of this, Storm Ascher. She didn't just wake up one day and decide, let's start a gallery. I'm sure she didn't. She built it out of necessity. She studied how public art projects were being used to gentrify neighborhoods, and she knew there had to be a better way. What was her vision? Decentralization. She's on the front line showing that there's a market elsewhere and anywhere, that she is. That artists deserve visibility beyond these major hubs. And let's keep it real. This kind of model is not easy and it's risky, but it's also proving that art can exist outside of institutions that have historically excluded Black and brown artists. So why does this all matter? Because Superposition isn't just a gallery, it's a blueprint for a better, more inclusive art world. It's showing that galleries don't have to be gatekeepers. It's providing that Black and brown artists deserve just as much visibility as their white counterparts. And it's leading by example, making sure that art doesn't just exist for the elite, but for the communities that inspire it. And I want to just give the biggest love, the most love to Storm. I'm proud of you, girl. Okay, I'm super proud of you. I'm so happy of what you're doing. This was the perfect moment to highlight Superposition in a way that I believe was respectful, and I'm proud of you. I hope that you get a chance to see this. Yeah, keep doing your thing. We rooting for you, girl. We proud of you. But let's move on. All right, now let's talk about one of the most exciting and important names, Jonathan Carver Moore. He's not just a gallerist, he's a disruptor, a champion for artists who have been historically overlooked, just like, all of this. In just a short time, he's managed to change the landscape of the San Francisco art scene. His gallery, named after himself, is a statement in itself. It's the first contemporary art gallery in San Francisco owned by an openly gay Black man. And in less than 2 years, it has already become a hub for Black, queer, and underrepresented artists, putting them on the map in ways that many mainstream galleries have failed to do. Before we get into the impact of the gallery, let's talk about him, Jonathan Carver Moore. Now, Moore didn't come from a traditional art world background. He studied sociology and public relations, just like me, just like your girl, in fields that are all about people, identity, and storytelling. He knows that art is more than just objects on a wall. It's about representation. It is about visibility, and it is about who gets to be a part of the conversation. And that's what makes his journey even more remarkable. San Francisco is a city known for its progressive culture. Yet, before Moore, there had never been a Black, openly gay gallerist leading a contemporary art space. Think about that for a second. In one of the most diverse and LGBTQ+ friendly cities in the world, Black and queer voices were still missing from gallery ownership, until Moore decided to change that. So in 2023, Jonathan Carver Moore took a leap and opened his gallery in the Tenderloin, a neighborhood that holds deep cultural significance for the LGBTQ+ community. This was not an accident, at all. He wanted his gallery to be a space where people who often feel left out of the gallery world could walk in and immediately feel like they belong. When you don't see people that look like you running galleries and running spaces, then you don't think it's a place you're allowed to be. And that's what he said, okay? And that's exactly why he opened his doors, to break down those invisible walls and prove that Black and queer collectors, artists, and art lovers not only deserve a seat at the table, but they also deserve to own the table. Now, I want to talk about the artists, because Jonathan Carver Moore's gallery isn't just a passion project, it's a powerhouse of talent. From emerging artists to internationally recognized names, Moore is building a roster of creatives. One of the first exhibitions he launched was Black as an Experience, Not as a Color, a group show featuring 6 Black male artists from across the African diaspora. These artists came from the US, Cameroon, Nigeria, and Ghana, proving that the Black experience isn't a monolith. It's global, it's nuanced, it's deeply personal. Every exhibition he curates is a statement. He's merging art with activism, making sure that race, gender, and identity aren't just side topics. They're at the center of the conversation. And he's not stopping at exhibitions. He's created an artist residency program to give creatives more resources and space to work. He's taken his gallery to international art fairs, Expo Chicago, Untitled Art Miami, and Invest at Cape Town Art Fair, proving that these artists belong on the world stage. Yeah, he ain't playing around. So let's talk about why Jonathan Carver Moore matters if I haven't given you enough context. Jonathan Carver Moore is proving that the art world is changing. The Black and queer voices are not just diversity talking points, they are essential to the future of art. His gallery is a blueprint for how to make the art world more inclusive. It's a space that doesn't just show Black and queer artists, it empowers them. It gives them access to collectors, to museums, and global recognition. And for the next generation of Black and LGBTQ+ galleries, he's paving the way. He's showing them that they can own galleries, they can be decision makers, and they can shape the future of contemporary art. Jonathan Carver Moore is more than just a name. He's a movement, and trust me, this is just the beginning. So why does all of this matter? because these galleries are showing us that art doesn't have to be locked behind the doors of elite institutions. It belongs in our communities, with our stories and our terms. It's proving that galleries can be both successful and rooted in culture, that artists don't need to fit the mold to be valued, and that when you create a space for people to tell their stories, the world will listen. Look, before I go, I want to really encourage you guys to go over to my Patreon. I'm building an incredible fantasy art collection that I think you're really going to want to be a part of. I'm so excited to build this collection. And if you haven't checked out the video about me building the collection, check it out here. I'll be building this fantasy collection with a fantasy $300,000, and I'll be involving my Glory Collective, which is my Patreon community, asking them to vote and also tell me what artists they think I should add to this collection. I'm going to be thinking about this collection as if it's actually going into my home. I'm going to be strategic about it. I'm going to think with my heart, but I'm also going to think with my mind. So we're going to be making really, really smart collecting decisions as we do this. Also, if you're not familiar with my Patreon, what else is going on over in my Patreon? There's tons of resources for both artists and collectors. I'm talking about how to write a press release, how to write an artist statement, and then for collectors, how to define your mission. I now also provide art market insights, which is a complete deep dive on specific artists. If you want, you can check out my latest one, the one that I did over Nathaniel Mary Quinn, that's sitting in my Patreon right now. I did a video on YouTube about it, but the deep dive on Patreon goes a lot deeper. So I encourage you guys to at least check it out to see if it's something that you want to be a part of, okay? Also, I want to also encourage you guys to join my weekly newsletter. It's called The Glory Collective, and it's where I just kind of dump all this really amazing information on you guys. I always include a tidbit of advice for collectors, a tidbit of advice for artists. I give some recommendations for artists to check out, for exhibitions to check out. I also give some exhibitions for an approachable artwork. Sometimes this artwork is under $300, sometimes it's under $5,000, okay? For collectors or even artists that are also collecting, I think it's a really important section so that we understand and that we know that we have access to art. We don't have to have all the money in the world to have access to art. Sometimes all we need is $300 to buy something. All right, so anyway, guys, I love y'all. And remember, it doesn't matter what group you belong to, whether you're an artist, a collector, or just here for the love of art, this channel is your home. So thank y'all for watching Dear Glory. Don't forget to like, to subscribe, and to join me next time for more art world insights, conversations, and discovery. See y'all soon.